The contents of our today's class is what is memory management, how the operating system divides the physical memory and the virtual memory into different processes. We will discuss what is how the process management work, and also that which one is the best method for the management of the memory. So before starting the class, let us recap a bit that we learned in the previous chapter, that in the computer memory that we have, okay, we have these three parameters: the size of the memory, the access time, and the cost per unit. So we have seen that different memory have different speed. Okay, so they have different access time, they have different size. So if you want to buy a memory that is larger in size, in that case the cost will be less, but the access time will increase. Smaller memories like cache memory, okay, they have they are small in size, but their cost is, they are expensive. The cost per unit is much high, but their access time is also very fast. What we do, we use these different kinds of memory depending on what type of configurations we have. So if we start with the basics, that initially for storage we use secondary memory. Secondary memory is huge in size. Okay, like we normally every computer hard disk have 1 TB of secondary memory. Okay, they are huge in size. They are huge in size, but they are very slow. So it takes a good amount of time to access the secondary memory, and but the cost is also, they are also cheap. If I talk about the main memory, that is RAM. Okay, so the size of the normal RAM is like 8 GB, 4 GB. We have this amount of RAMs in normal computers. So comparing to the secondary memory, they are faster. Okay, but they're also expensive. Okay, the cost is high, and the size is also smaller. So this one is actually if the speed or access time for the secondary memory is 100 millisecond, this will be only 10 millisecond. Okay, and then we have this cache memory. The cache memory is very much small, almost in the size of megabyte. Okay, but they are very fast, and they are used in between main memory and CPU to actually so that the CPU can work very fast. And then we also have some other type of memories. But in short, the main idea is that some memories are very fast, like cache memory. So we want to use as much as possible. But the problem is that they are expensive. So we have to use a combination of cache memory, main memory, and secondary memory, so that our CPU is fast, at the same time it's cheap, or I should not say cheap, it's like cost feasible. Okay, is beyond our reach. Then you have heard of SSD, I'm sure. So it is another kind of memory. So we also use SSD for the same purpose. Now, the background is very simple. Program must be brought into the memory and placed within a process for it to be run. Okay. Then in the input queue, we have a collection of process on the disk that are waiting to be brought into the memory to run the program. User programs go through several steps before being run. So we have seen this, right? We have seen what are the steps of process. If I talk about 5-state model, we have a waiting state, we have a ready queue, we have a new process, and so on. So every process that we run in our computer need to be brought to the CPU, so allocated memory, so that it can run. There are some steps that it have to go through. So if I think about a normal source code that you write, from the source code, it first needed to be compiled. After compiling the code, it needs to be transferred to object code, and from there, step by step, finally it is allocated memory for the CPU. Now, we have this two type of memory major representation of memory arrangement: memory allocation and address translation. So our first memory management unit, okay, the first focus is memory allocation, how to allocate the memories. Second is address translation. So we will talk details about both, that how this address translation work and how this memory allocation work. But first we'll discuss about memory allocation, that given you have a fixed amount of physical memory, how your computer actually allocates the spaces between different processes. So normally we have two type of memory allocation. One is contiguous memory allocation. That means processor allocated memory one after another, okay, serially, just like the way we do in array. So this is an example. Another one is non-contiguous memory allocation. So the memory is allocated in a different space of the memory, okay, at random. So this is called non-contiguous memory allocation, just like the linked list. Data structure course, you have been familiar with this two type of memory allocation and data structure, array and linked list. So this is a very simple example. Now, in case of contiguous memory allocation, the advantage is we have a quick access time. So if we know that if this is array 0, if I want to access the fifth element, if I just add 5 to the address of array 0, I will get the fifth element. Okay, so if I say that the address of array 0 is 5, the first value is, let's assume this is 500, okay, the location of the first address, first value is 500. So if I ask you what will be the location of fifth, you will say, sir, if the first is 500, the fifth will be 500 plus 5 or 500 plus 4. Okay, in this way we can actually allocate the memory, because in the array we know that if the first one is in 500, second one will be in 501, third one will be in 502, and so on. Okay, but so this is a quick access time and easy address translation. We just have to add 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1, we will get the next address, next address, next address. Okay, but problem is external fragmentation problem. Now, what is external fragmentation? That we don't know. So we will discuss that in the later slides. Okay, let's go here. So in the non-contiguous memory allocation, okay, we don't have this problem that we had in no external fragmentation, but the disadvantage is access time is very slow. Why? Because if I say the first memory is, the first value is in the 500, okay, and if I ask you what will be the second, there's no surety. The second one might be in the 200, the third one might be in the 700, because in the linked list, all the is non-contiguous. That means the data is actually scattered all around the computer memory. Okay, and that's why it takes a slow access time to access all the memories. Now we will first talk about contiguous memory allocation. So let's assume that for now we are only talking about memory allocation that are contiguous, that means one after another. So whenever a process needs a memory, we will allocate in a way that one first it will get they will be allocated contiguously one after another. Okay, so there are two types of contiguous memory allocation. First one is fixed size partitioning. Second one is variable size partitioning. So let's first talk about fixed size partitioning. To that, let me just use a whiteboard. Now let's assume that this is your computer's memory. Okay, same amount of memory. In one, we will use the fixed size partitioning. In another one, we will do the variable size partitioning. So this one is fixed size partitioning, and this one is variable size partitioning. Now, to understand the fixed size partitioning, there is an easy example that we can relate. That let's assume that you want to make a house. Okay. Now, in your house, okay, you have been allocated that, okay, you have this amount of space, you have this 100 amount of space, 100 feet. Okay, you have to make your house in this 100 feet. Now, what you have to do in this 100 feet, you have to make 5 rooms. Now, what you think that, okay, what you can do, you can allocate same space for all the rooms. That's, sir, all the rooms that I have will be 25, 25, 25. Okay, this can be one solution. This, sir, all the rooms will be 25, 25, 25. All the rooms will be allocated a fixed amount of space. Or you can say, sir, no, all the rooms will not be 25. The bedroom will be 50. The dining room will be 30. The kitchen will be 10. And another room will be 20. You can do that, right? But doesn't matter how you do it. The idea is this, that you will fix a size, that this room will get this amount of size. If I think about a bedroom, it will get 50 feet or it will get 25 feet. That means you will first say that my memory, the total space that I have will be allocated into this some partitions. So you will, in fixed case, what we do in fixed size partitioning, we first divide the memory into certain number of partitions. Okay, then each partition will be fixed and cannot be changed. So if I go for this example, here we had 10 kilobyte of memory. So what we did, okay, in the fixed size partitioning, I have partitioned the memory into a size of 5 kilobyte, 2 kilobyte, 2 kilobyte, and 1 kilobyte. So I have partitioned the memory into some fixed amount of sizes. Okay. Now let's see what happens in the next case, that is variable size partitioning. So in the variable size partitioning, what we will do, okay, we will not divide the space, it will be a empty room, okay. And now depending on, okay, which process I have, I will allocate memory depending on the process, okay. So let's assume if someone thinks, okay, I want to change my room, okay, I want to make it larger, you can do it. The walls that we have are not fixed, you can move between the walls. So this is the idea about the variable size partitioning. So whenever the process comes, okay, each process gets memory depending on their size. So if the first process, here is an example, in the fixed size partitioning, okay, one process came, the name of the process was 4 kilobyte. So if you say that I had uh, a total 5 kilobyte of total space, and from there, okay, a process came whose size is 4 kilobyte. Okay, then what I did, I allocated this 4 kilobyte to this process, and the rest of the space, this 1 kilobyte, the one that you marked black, is actually wasted memory, because now no one else can use this space. It's like this, that we have a classroom where we are taking the class, but the number of students are only 20, but there can be 50 students in the class. So the rest 30 are actually wasted. So this is called internal fragmentation. Okay, the memory, any other classes cannot use that seats because I'm already taking class there. Okay, same way any other process cannot use this 1 kilobyte of memory because already a process 1 is using it. So process 2 or process 3, maybe a process which needs 1 kilobyte of memory, he will not be able to use it. But in the variable size partitioning, what is the advantage? You see, the process 1 came, he needed 4 kilobytes. So out of the 10, he will only take 4 kilobyte. So the rest 6 kilobyte will be free. Then another process will come, P2. Okay, he needs 3 kilobyte. So out of the 6, he will take 3. So 3 kilobyte will be free. Then another process, P3 will come with 4 kilobyte. There is no empty space, only 3 kilobyte of free, so it will not be allocated. So it will go on like this. Okay. Now the idea is very simple. We start with a fixed amount of memory. In the fixed size partitioning, we divide the memory. Okay, we use walls between the memory as we want. In the variable size partitioning, we don't have any partitions. What we do, every process comes, we actually allocate the processes, okay, as they need. So this is the idea between these two type of partitioning, and there is no internal fragmentation going on. Okay, there's no wastage of memory. If I think about a classroom, so every time I'm taking a class, I see how many students are present. So if I have 25 students, I only bring 25 seats, okay, and so on. Now let's, so this is the first part. Let me stop the recording here.